Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I am back with some more ancient lore. Today we are diving back into the Kybalion, and we are continuing the journey into the all that is all. If you are unfamiliar with what has been happening here, it is suggested that you begin at the beginning. This probably will wind up being a level of responsibility video, and if you were unaware of that, you should definitely go back at least to the beginning of this, because it means that you will be responsible for the knowledge that you obtain from this video. The first part we have already covered, but the second part should get into some more detailed information that we can probably use in doing the things that we want to do. But before you begin doing any of those things, it is also recommended that you check out the 8 laws of creation, because the 8 laws of creation are how things are governed in manifestation, and if you want to properly execute manifestation in your life and reap the rewards that are meant for you, you should check out the 8 rules of creation, or the 8 laws of creation, because that is what governs it. All that being said, we are going to dive into chapter 7, the all in all. While all is in the all, it is equally true that the all is in all. To him who truly understands this truth hath come great knowledge. The Kybalion. How often have the majority of a people heard repeated the statement that their deity, called by many names, was all in all, and how little have they suspected the inner, occult truth concealed by those carelessly uttered words. The commonly used expression is a survival of the ancient Hermetic maxim quoted above. As the Kybalion says, to him who truly understands this truth hath come great knowledge, and this being so, let us seek this truth, the understanding of which means so much. In this statement of truth, this Hermetic maxim, is concealed one of the greatest philosophical, scientific, and religious truths. We have given you the Hermetic teaching regarding the mental nature of the universe, the truth that the universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. As the Kybalion says in the passage quoted above, all is in the all. But note also the correlated statement that it is equally true that the all is in all. This apparently contradictory statement is reconcilable under the law of paradox. It is, moreover, an exact Hermetic statement in the relations existing between the all and its mental universe. We have seen how all is in the all. Now let us examine the other aspect of the subject. It's also contained in the very first law of creation. The Hermetic teachings are to the effect that the all is immanent in remaining within, inherent, abiding within its universe, and in every part, particle, unit, or combination within the universe. This statement is usually illustrated by the teachers by a reference to the principle of correspondence. The teacher instructs the students to form a mental image of something, a person, an idea, something having a mental form. The favorite example being that of the author or dramatist forming an idea of his characters, or a painter or sculptor forming an image of an ideal that he wishes to express by his art. In each case, the student will find that while the image has its existence and being solely within his own mind, yet he, the student, author, dramatist, painter, sculptor, is, in a sense, immanent in, remaining within, or abiding within the mental image also. In other words, the entire virtue, life, spirit of reality in the mental image is derived from the immanent mind of the thinker. Consider for a moment until the idea is grasped. To take a modern example, let us say that Othello, Iago, Hamlet, Lear, Richard III existed merely in the minds of Shakespeare at the time of their conception or creation, and yet Shakespeare also existed within each of these characters, giving them their vitality, spirit, and action. Whose is the spirit of the characters that we know as MacGyver? Oliver Twist, Uriah Heep? Is it Dickens? Or have each of these characters a personal spirit independent of their creator? Have the Venus of Medici, the Sistine Madonna, the Apollo Belvedere spirits and reality of their own, or do they represent the spiritual and mental power of their creators? The law of paradox explains that both propositions are true, viewed from the proper viewpoint. Micawber is both Micawber and yet Dickens. And again, while Micawber may be said to be Dickens, yet Dickens is not identical with Micawber. Man, like Micawber, may exclaim, "The spirit of my creator is inherent within me, and yet I am not he." How different this is from the shocking half-truths so vociferously announced by certain of the half-wise who fill the air with their raucous cries of "I am God." Imagine poor Micawber, or sneaky Uriah Heep saying, "I am Dickens." Or some of the lowliest clods in one of the Shakespeare's plays eloquently announcing that "I am Shakespeare." The all is in the earthworm, and yet the earthworm is far from being the all. And still the wonder remains that though the earthworm exists merely as a lowly thing created and having its being solely within the mind of the all, yet the all is immanent in the earthworm, and in the particles that go and make up the earthworm. Can there be any greater mystery than this of the all is in the all, and the all in all? The student will, of course, realize that the illustrations given above are necessarily imperfect and inadequate, for they represent the creation of mental images in finite minds, while the universe is a creation of infinite mind, and the difference between the two poles separates them, and yet it is a matter of degree. The same principle is in operation, the principle of correspondence, manifest in each. As above, so below, as below, so above. And in the degree that man realizes the existence of the indwelling spirit immanent within his being, so will he rise in the spiritual scale of life. This is what spiritual development means: the recognition, realization, and manifestation of the spirit within us. Try to remember this last definition, that of spiritual development. It contains the truth of true religion. There are many planes of being, many subplanes of life, many degrees of existence in the universe, and all depend upon the advancement of beings in the scale, of which scale the lowest point is the grossest matter, and the highest being separated only by the thinnest division from the spirit of the all. And upward and onward along the scale of life, everything is moving. All are on the path whose end is the all. All progress is a returning home. All is upward and onward, in spite of all seemingly contradictory appearances. Such is the message of the illumined. The Hermetic teachings concerning the process of the mental creation of the universe are that at the beginning of the creative cycle, the all, in its aspect of being, projects its will upon the aspect of becoming, and the process of creation begins. It is taught that the process consists of the lowering of vibration until a very low degree of vibratory energy is reached, at which point the grossest possible form of matter is manifested. This process is called the stage of involution, in which the all becomes involved or wrapped up in its creation. This process is believed by the Hermetists to have a correspondence on the mental process of an artist, writer, or inventor who becomes so wrapped up in his mental creation as to almost forget his own existence, and who, for the time being, almost lives in his creation. If instead of wrapped, we use the word wrapped, perhaps we will give a better idea of what is meant. This involuntary stage of creation is sometimes called the outpouring of the divine energy, just as the evolutionary state is called the indrawing. The extreme pole of the creative process is considered to be the furthest removed from the all, while the beginning of the evolutionary stage is regarded as the beginning of the return swing of the rhythm of the pendulum of rhythm, a coming home. The idea being the idea a coming home idea being held in all of the Hermetic teachings. The teachings that are during the outpouring, the vibrations become lower and lower until finally the urge ceases and the return swing begins. But there is this difference that while the outpouring, the creative force, manifests compactly and as a whole, yet from the beginning of the evolutionary or indrawing stage, there is manifested the law of individualization. That is, the tendency to separate into units of force so that finally that which is left, the all, as unindividualized energy, returns to its source as countless highly developed units of life, having risen higher and higher in the scale by means of physical, mental, and spiritual evolution. Ancient Hermetists used the word meditation in describing the process of the mental creation of the universe in the mind of the all. The word contemplation also being frequently employed, but the idea intended seems to be that of the employment of the divine attention. Attention is a word derived from the Latin root meaning to reach out, to stretch out, and so the act of attention is really a mental reaching out extension of mental energy, so that the underlying idea is readily understood when we examine the real meaning of attention. The Hermetic teachings regarding the process of evolution are that the all, having meditated upon the beginning of the creation, having thus established the material foundations of the universe, having thought it into existence, then gradually awakens or rouses from its meditation, and in doing so starts doing into manifestation the process of evolution on the material, mental, and spiritual planes successively and in order. Thus the upward movement begins, and all begins to move spiritward. Matter becomes less gross, the units spring into being, the combinations begin to form. Life appears and manifests in higher and higher forms. The mind becomes more and more in evidence, the vibrations constantly becoming higher. In short, the entire process of evolution, in all of its phases, begins and proceeds according to the established laws of indrawing process. All of this occupies eons upon eons of man's time, each eon containing countless millions of years. But yet, the illumined inform us that the entire creation, including immolation and evolution, of a universe is but as the twinkle of an eye to the all. At the end of countless cycles of eons of time, the all withdraws its attention, its contemplation and meditation of the universe, for the great work is finished, and all is withdrawn into the all from which it re-emerged. But, mystery of mysteries, the spirit of each soul is not annihilated, but is infinitely expanded. The Creator and the Creator, the created and the Creator are merged. Such is the report of the illumined. The above illustration of the meditation and subsequent awakened from meditation of the all is, of course, but an attempt of the teachers to describe the infinite process by a finite example. And yet, as below, so above. The difference is merely in degree, and just as the all arouses itself from the meditation upon the universe, so does man, in time, cease from manifesting upon the material plane, and withdraws himself more and more into the indwelling spirit, which is indeed the divine ego. There is one more matter of which we desire to speak in this lesson, and that comes very near to an invasion of the metaphysical field of speculation. Although our purpose is merely to show the futility of such speculation, we allude to the question which inevitably comes to the mind of all thinkers when they have ventured to seek the truth. The question is, why does the all create universes? The question may be asked in different forms, but the above is the gist of the inquiry. Men have striven hard to answer this question, but there is no answer worthy of the name. Some have imagined that the all has something to gain by it, but this is absurd, for what could the all gain that it did not already possess? Others have sought the answer in the idea that the all wished something to love, and others that it had created for pleasure or amusement, or because it was lonely, or to manifest its power. All puerile explanations and ideas belonging to the childish period of thought. Others have sought to explain the mystery by assuming that the all found itself compelled to create by reason of its own internal nature, its creative instinct. This idea is in advance of the others, but its weak point lies in the idea of the all being compelled by anything, internal or external. If its internal nature or creative instinct compelled it to do anything, then the internal nature or creative instinct would be the absolute instead of the all. And so, accordingly, that part of the proposition falls. And yet, the all does create and manifest, and seems to find some kind of satisfaction in doing so. And it is difficult to escape the conclusion that, in some infinite degree, it must have what would correspond to an inner nature, or creative instinct, in man, which with correspondingly infinite desire and will. It could not act unless it willed to act, and it would not will to act unless it desired to act, and it would not desire to act unless it obtained some satisfaction thereby. And all of these things would belong to an inner nature, and might be postulated as existing according to the law of correspondence. But still, we prefer to think of the all as acting entirely free from any influence, internal as well as external. That is the problem which lies at the root of difficulty, and the difficulty that lies at the root of the problem. Strictly speaking, there cannot be said to be any reason whatsoever for the all to act, for a reason implies a cause, and the all is above cause and effect, except when it wills to become a cause, at which time the principle is set into motion. So, you see, the matter is unthinkable, just as the all is unknowable, just as we say the all merely is. So we are compelled to say that the all acts because it acts. At the last, the all is all reason in itself, all law in itself, all action in itself. And it may be said, truthfully, that the all is its own reason, its own law, its own act, or still further, that the all, its reason, its act, its law, are one, all being names for the same thing. In the opinion of those who are giving you these present lessons, the answer is locked up in the inner self of the all, along with its secret of being. The law of correspondence, in our opinion, reaches only to the aspect of the all, which may be spoken of as the aspect of becoming. Back of that aspect is the aspect of being, in which all laws are lost in law. All principles merge into principle, and the all, principle, and being are identical, one and the same. Therefore, metaphysical speculation on this point is futile. We go into the matter here merely to show that we recognize the question, and also the absurdity of the ordinary answers of metaphysics and theology. In conclusion, it may be of interest to our students to learn that while some of the ancient and modern Hermetic teachers have rather inclined in the direction of applying the principle of correspondence to the question, with the result of the inner nature conclusion, still the legends have it that Hermes the Great, when asked this question by his advanced students, answered them by pressing his lips tightly together and not saying a word, indicating that there was no answer. But then he may have intended to apply the axiom of his philosophy that the lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding, believing that even his advanced students did not possess the understanding which entitled them to the teaching. At any rate, if Hermes possessed the secret, he failed to impart it, and so far as the world is concerned, the lips of Hermes are closed regarding it, and where the great Hermes hesitates to speak, what mortal may dare to teach? But remember that whatever be the answer to this problem, if indeed there be an answer to the truth, remains that while all is in the all, it is equally true that the all is in all. The teaching on this point is emphatic, and we may add the concluding words of the quotation. To him who truly understands this truth hath come great knowledge. And so we end chapter 7, and there's a lot in here, right? Manifestation is real. It is a very, very real thing. I know my voice is a little weak today, right? I have good days, I have bad days. There's progress being made, but the manifestation was the removal of a cyst in my throat. This part is manifesting. It doesn't have to be satisfying me immediately. It is manifesting because it is the will of God that it manifests in the way that it is. I am willing to wait on His timing because none of us know His mind. We can make our assumptions. We can assume that we know. I do. I make an assumption that I know, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But let's take it back to the top. I know we're talking about the beginning of the mentalism and creating the image. Now, if you're new here, which is definitely a possibility, this topic brings in new people. I have aphantasia. Now, what aphantasia means is that I cannot willfully close my eyes and visualize anything. I can't think of a single blade of grass. I cannot picture a box. I can't remember my childhood, right? I can't close my eyes and see my grandmother's face. I can't do any of that. Some people can, and that is truly a superpower. That helps you in manifestation immensely, but it is not required to do it. I am physically manifesting healing in my own body. Y'all don't know me any more than anyone knows anyone on the internet, but I hope by this time I have somewhat of a reputation for being honest, at least. Even when it's detrimental to me, I am honest. And so I am telling you, my life is changing because God is changing my life. I am manifesting physical healing in ways that most people cannot even conceive of. So when I am telling you things that relate to this, it is from a spot of experience. I have a cyst removed from my throat. My voice is coming back. I have been recording singing. That's why it's weak right now. I was able to sing in my own voice. I had a couple of weeks where I was like, oh man, did I do something wrong? Because my shoulder hurt. Turns out I've been praying for healing, and God fixed my shoulder surgery. What do you mean, Pitt? How is that possible? I don't know, but it happened. I asked for healing, and I had had shoulder surgery twice. And they went in, and what they did was they shaved a little bit of my clavicle. They took out some free-floating cartilage. And then they pulled my shoulder into socket and rerouted some tendons to hold it in place. And it took me a while to recover to be able to use my arm. Those tendons came out. Like, the thing that was holding my shoulder where it was came out. But the pain associated with it is now gone. The tendons didn't go back. My arm is not where it was as far as functionality, but it is beginning to go back to its normal shape and strength. You don't know me, but it has not been. I have not had 100% of this shoulder since 2008. So the fact that this is happening is another physical manifestation that I can't share with you in the way that I can tell you about it. My back is getting better. Like, there are a lot of things happening, right? I wish I could regrow some teeth. That would be amazing. But I don't know that that one's going to happen. You don't have to be able to visualize anything. Your energy has to be directed correctly. Now, visualization, I'm sure, helps to direct that energy into the correct spot. But if you follow the 8 laws of creation, you keep your alignment correct and your target broad, you can indeed manifest. I was trying to manifest my voice, and that's happening. I'm manifesting other things because I kept my target broad. I asked for healing, not specific healing. It took me over a decade of my back to ask God to heal me of anything. It wasn't until my throat was messed up and I was so tired of not being able to talk, I asked God to heal me, and it happened. You don't have to be able to do everything in this book in order to do everything in this book. God is. God is me. God is you. God is the space between me and you, and God is the space between me and you. He is all the things that you can put your hands on, and He is all the things that you cannot. Some of them you can see and can't put your hands on, but you could if you could get close. But He is all the thoughts that happen, all of them. God is the spirit. We have the three parts: the body, the flesh suit. You have the soul, that is the individualized fragment of God that is you, that makes the decisions for the flesh suit. But God is the spirit. He is the surrounding everything other than the spark inside of you. He is even your body. He is your spark, but He gave that one to you. He gave you free choice, free will, free execution of what you want to do, to follow your path, whether that leads up or down. That is the law. What they're trying to relate to the correspondence here, right, is if you hold God's will where you want it, right, you ask God, fully understanding this is the law of paradox that they don't get quite right either. You have to believe in two realities at the exact same time with full commitment to both. And how do you even do that, right? It is possible. It takes discipline. But you have to believe in the reality in which you live, where you are. I am an injured person. And you have to fully commit to the reality that is to come, that is becoming the Spirit of God in action. The part that makes you breathe, that keeps your heart pumping. The part that connects us energetically when we look in each other's eyes. The part that lets you know that I'm not lying to you when I tell you things. That is the all. That is what you're making the commitment with. Is with the part that knows your innermost thoughts. You have to correct your innermost thoughts. But if you do, if you are truly seeking the things that are of creation, then the things that are of creation are at your call. You can speak them into existence through the toroid that is your creative forces. Your eyes can both absorb light and give it out. I have a video on that. Your ears hear sound and echolocate. Your body is capable of wondrous things, and you have control of those things through discipline, through alignment. And if you keep control of the alignment, then you can, in meditation, right? Prayer, fasting, and meditation are the three keys, right? Fasting is for the meat suit. Prayer is for you to ask. And meditation is for Him to create. When you fast, you are preparing your meat suit to receive the blessings of God. You are showing that you have the discipline to do what He has asked you to do. And it allows you to absorb the energies better. When you pray, they're calling it meditation in this book. And I understand the why, but it's not. When you pray, you ask for things. You create things. You visualize things. You invest your energy in those things. That is you praying. God, I am a sinner. Forgive me. That's one. God, I need to be able to pay my rent. Help me out. That's another one. That is you investing, right? And if you don't hold nothing else in your mind, then I need to pay my rent, then that's what's going to be met. But if you say, Lord, I want abundance in my life, and you leave the rest of it open, then He can bring abundance in your life because you are in correspondence with the divine. You are trying to imitate Him as above, here, so below. And by doing so, you cause the so below to try to imitate you so above. Now, for the other part, where Hermes' lips are sealed, and in large part I agree with that, because nobody will know until it is done, right? But most of this I absolutely believe in. I do absolutely believe that we are here as a divine expression of soul. We are here to experience the experience. But we don't know God's intent in that. We only know that it is true that we are here and that we are here for our betterment in some way. Because when we make the choices that align us with God, our betterment appears. The things that are restricted are never arbitrary. They are for disciplinary purposes and for you to learn balance, because balance is the key to manifestation. You cannot be consumed by either the virtues or the vices. You have to balance that in your life. I personally believe this, right? I believe that we are individual fragments of God. Not to say that anyone is God, but that we are all individual, fully functioning, capable of choice fragments of God, given free will by God to be able to choose what to do with it. And that each experience is used by God as a learning experience, because being everything, he can't know the individualized anything, right? He can't know sorrow because he doesn't know loss. He knows what's on the other side. So he doesn't feel loss in the way that we do. He feels loss through us feeling loss. He feels grief through us feeling grief. That is what I personally believe the journey and the experience is about, is for him to have the experiences. What those experiences are is largely up to us. I believe that we make soul contracts, that every single person that you have ever met in your life, you met before you were here, because I believe the soul is eternal, right? So you were somewheres before and you will be somewheres after. And I believe in the somewheres before, me and you made a compact, and I am here to teach you something, and you are here to teach me something. Sometime, at some point, it will happen, right? It may be in a comment. It may be we meet face to face someday. It may be a temptation. It may be, who knows, right? But you are meant to teach me something, and I am meant to teach you something. And that is true for every single interaction that you have ever had in your entire life. Every single one of those interactions has a chance to go in a multitude of ways. Things can go to the right side and things can go to the bad side, right? You have choices in your life. Some of them are innocuous, Burger King or McDonald's, but even that can turn into a bigger choice. The choices that you make are yours. Every single one of them, you get to choose your response. You don't get to choose the circumstances here. You have already chosen them there. You will understand that there. I believe that when we return, everything is made clear that we return there, and we understand where we failed, what we still need to learn, the parts that our individualized fragment still needs to pick up. I think that we get that there, and we're like, okay. And then you make a decision whether you're going to go back and try it again or you don't. It's not a prison. It's an experience. You're meant to enjoy it. And if you're not, then something's wrong. You need to try and figure that out and fix it. Ask for better and let it show up. Make a plan and help it show up. The all is the all. And the all is for you. It is here for you. It is possible to manifest, but it is also possible to hurt yourself trying to manifest. Be very, very careful. Follow the laws. I stress that so much because it is so vitally important. Like, if you didn't watch any of my other videos, that's the one to watch. And I don't need to redo it because it's been a while and things have evolved a little bit, but all the basics are there. All right, let's get into Chapter 8. The Planes of Correspondence. As above, so below, and as below, so above. And I've already revealed a little bit on this already. The great second Hermetic principle embodies the truth that there is a harmony, agreement, and correspondence between the several planes of manifestation, life, and being. This truth is a truth because all that is included in the universe emanates from the same source and the same laws. Principles and characteristics apply to each unit, or combination of units of activity, as each manifests its own phenomena upon its own plane. I can't not do that, I'm sorry. For the purpose of convenience of thought and study, the Hermetic philosophy considers that the universe may be divided into three great classes of phenomena, known as the three great planes. I'm going to try not to anymore, I'm sorry. Namely, the great physical plane, the great mental plane, and the great spiritual plane. It's funny how there's three, right? The physical, the mental, and the spiritual. That's just funny, right? It's just a coincidence, I'm sure. These divisions are more or less artificial and arbitrary. For the truth is that all of the three divisions are but ascending degrees of the great scale of life, the lowest point of which is undifferentiated matter, and the highest point is that of spirit. And moreover, the different planes shade into each other, so that no hard and fast division may be made between the higher phenomena of the physical and the lower of the mental, or between the higher of the mental and the lower of the physical. In short, the three great planes may be regarded as three great groups of degrees of life manifestation. While the purposes of this little book do not allow us to enter into an extended discussion of, or explanation of, the subject of these different planes, still we think it well to give a general description of the same at this point. At the beginning, we may as well consider the question so often asked by the neophyte who desires to be informed regarding the meaning of the word plane, which term has been very freely used and very poorly explained in many recent works upon the subject of occultism. The question is generally about as follows: is a plane a place having a dimension, or is it merely a condition or state? We answer, no, not a place, nor ordinary dimension of space, and yet more than a state or condition. It may be considered as a state or condition, and yet the state or condition is a degree of dimension in a scale subject to measurement. Somewhat paradoxical, is it not? But let us examine the matter. A dimension, you know, is a measure in a straight line, relating to measure, etc. The ordinary dimensions of space are length, breadth, and height, or perhaps length, breadth, height, and thickness, or circumference. But there is another dimension of created things, or measure in a straight line, known to occultists and to scientists as well, although the latter have not yet as applied the term dimension to it. And this new dimension, which, by the way, is the much speculated about fourth dimension, is the standard used in determining degrees or planes. The fourth dimension may be called the dimension of vibration. It is a fact well known to modern science as well to the Hermetists who have embodied their truth in the third Hermetic principle, that everything is in motion, everything vibrates, and nothing is at rest. From the highest manifestation to the lowest, everything and all things vibrate. Not only do they vibrate at different rates of motion, but as in different directions and in a different manner. The degrees of the rate of vibrations constitute the degrees of measurement on the scale of vibrations. In other words, the degrees of the fourth dimension. And these degrees form what occultists call planes. The higher the degree of rate of vibration, the higher the plane, and the higher the manifestation of life occupying that plane. So that while a plane is not a place, nor yet a state or condition, yet it possesses qualities common to both, and we shall have more to say regarding the subject of the scale of vibrations in our next lessons, in which we shall consider the Hermetic principle of vibration. You will kindly remember, however, that the three great planes are not actual divisions of the phenomena of the universe, but merely arbitrary terms used by the Hermetists in order to aid in the thought and study of the various degrees and forms of universal activity in life. The atom of matter, the unit of force, the mind of man, and the being of the archangel are all but degrees in one scale, and all fundamentally the same. The difference between solely a matter of degree and rate of vibration. All are the creations of the All, and have their existence solely within the infinite mind of the All. The Hermetists subdivide each of the three great planes into 7 minor planes, and each of these latter are also subdivided into 7 subplanes, all divisions being more or less arbitrary, shading into each other, and adopted merely for convenience of scientific thought and study. The great physical plane and its 7 minor planes is that division of the phenomena of the universe which includes all that relates to physics, or material things, forces, and manifestations. It includes all forms of that which we call matter, and all forms of that which we call energy or force. But you must remember that the Hermetic philosophy does not recognize matter as a thing in itself, or as having a separate existence even in the mind of the All. The teachings are that matter is but a form of energy, that is, energy at a low rate of vibrations, or of a certain kind, and according to the Hermetists, classify matters under the head of energy, and give it to 3 of the 7 minor planes of the great physical plane. The 7 minor physical planes are as follows: the plane of matter A, the plane of matter B, the plane of matter C, the plane of ethereal substance, the plane of energy A, the plane of energy B, and the plane of energy C. The plane of matter A comprises the forms of matter in its forms of solids, liquids, and gases, as generally recognized by the textbooks on physics. The plane of matter B comprises certain higher and more subtle forms of matter in the existence of which modern science is but now recognizing. The phenomena of radiant matter and its phases of radium, etc., belonging to the lower subdivision in this minor plane. The plane of matter C comprises forms in the most subtle and tenuous matter, the existence of which is not suspected by ordinary scientists. The plane of ethereal substance comprises that which science speaks of as the ether, a substance of extreme tenuity and elasticity, pervading all universal space and acting as a medium for the transmission of waves of energy, such as light, heat, electricity, etc. This ethereal substance forms a connecting link between matter, so-called, and energy, and partakes in the nature of each. The Hermetic teachings, however, instruct that this plane has 7 subdivisions, as have all of the minor planes, and that, in fact, there are 7 ethers instead of but 1. Next, above the plane of ethereal substance, comes the plane of energy A, which comprises of the ordinary forms of energy known to science, its 7 subplanes being, respectively, heat, light, magnetism, electricity, and attraction, including gravitation, cohesion, chemical affinity, etc., and several other forms of energy indicated by scientific experiments but not yet named or classified. The plane of energy B comprises 7 subplanes of higher forms of energy, not yet discovered by science, which have been called nature's finer forces, and which are called into operation in manifestations of certain forms of mental phenomena, and by which such phenomena becomes possible. The plane of energy C comprises 7 subplanes of energy, so highly organized that it bears many of the characteristics of life, but which is not recognized by the minds of men in the ordinary plane of development, being available for the use of beings of the spiritual plane alone. Such energy is unthinkable to ordinary man and may be considered almost as the divine power. The beings employing the same are as gods, compared even to the highest human types known to us. The great mental plane comprises those forms of living things known to us in ordinary life, as well as certain other forms not so well known except to the occultist. The classification of the 7 minor mental planes is more or less satisfactory and arbitrary, unless accompanied by elaborate explanations which are foreign to the purpose of this particular work, but we may as well mention them. They are as follows. The plane of mineral mind, the plane of elemental mind, A. The plane of plant mind. The plane of elemental mind. B. The plane of animal mind. The plane of elemental mind. C. And the plane of human mind. The plane of mineral mind comprises the states or conditions of the units or entities, or groups and combinations of the same, which animate the forms known to us as minerals, chemicals, etc. These entities must not be confounded with the minerals, molecules, atoms, and corpuscles themselves, the latter merely being merely the material bodies or forms of these entities, just as a man's body is but his material form and not himself. These entities may be called souls in one sense, and are living beings of a low degree of development, life, and mind, just a little more than the units of living energy, which comprise the higher subdivisions of the highest physical plane. The average mind does not generally attribute the possession of mind, soul, or life to the mineral kingdom, but all occultists recognize the existence of the same, and modern science is rapidly moving forward to the point of view of the Hermetic in this respect. The molecules, atoms, and corpuscles have their loves and hates, likes and dislikes, attractions and repulsions, affinities and non-affinities, etc. And some of the more daring of modern scientific minds have expressed the opinion that the desire and will, emotions and feelings of the atoms differ only in the degree from those of men. We have no time or space to argue this matter here. All occultists know it to be a fact, and others are referred to some of the more recent scientific works for outside corroboration. There are the usual 7 subdivisions to this plane. The plane of elemental mind, A, comprises the state or condition, the degree of mental and vital development of a class of entities unknown to the average man but recognized to occultists. They are invisible to the ordinary senses of man, but nevertheless exist and play their part of the drama of the universe. Their degree of intelligence is between that of mineral and chemical entities on the one hand, and the entities of the plant kingdom on the other. There are 7 subdivisions of this plane also. The plane of plant mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises the states and conditions of the entities composing the kingdoms of the plant world, the vital and mental phenomena of which is fairly well understood by the average intelligent person. Many new and interesting scientific works regarding mind and life of plants having been published in the last decade. Plants have life, mind, and souls, as well as have the animals, man and Superman. The plane of elemental mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises the states and conditions of a higher form of elemental or unseen entities, playing their part in the general work of the universe, the mind and life of which form a part of the scale between the plane of plant mind and the plane of animal mind, the entities partaking of the nature of both. The plane of animal mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises the states and conditions of the entities, beings, or souls, animating the animal forms of life, familiar to us all. It is not necessary to go into details regarding this kingdom or plane of life, for the animal world is as familiar to us as is our own. The plane of elemental mind, C, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises those entities or beings, invisible as are all such elemental forms, which partake of the nature of both animal and human life in a degree and in certain combinations. The highest forms are semi-human in intelligence. The plane of the human mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises those manifestations of life and mentality which are common to man, in his various grades, degrees, and divisions. In this connection, we wish to point out the fact that the average man of today occupies but the 4th subdivision of the plane of the human mind, and only the most intelligent have crossed the borders of the 5th subdivision. It has taken the race millions of years to reach this stage, but it will take many more years for the race to move on to the 6th and 7th subdivisions, and beyond. But remember that there have been races before us which have passed through these degrees and then on to higher planes. Our own race is the 5th, with stragglers from the 4th, which has set foot upon the path, and then there are a few advanced souls of our own race which have outstripped the masses, and who have passed on to the sixth and seventh subdivision, and some few being still further on. The man of the sixth subdivision will be the Superman. He of the seventh will be the Overman. In our consideration of the seven minor mental planes, we have merely referred to the three elementary planes in a general way. We do not wish to go into this subject in detail in this work, for it does not belong to this part of the general philosophy and teachings. But we may say this much in order to give you a little clearer idea of the relations of these planes to the more familiar ones. The elementary planes bear the same relation to the planes of mineral, plant, animal, and human mentality and life that the black keys on the piano do to the white keys. The white keys are sufficient to produce music, but there are certain scales, melodies, and harmonies in which the black keys play their part, and in which their presence is necessary. They are also necessary as connecting links of soul condition, entity states, etc., between the several other planes, certain forms of development being attained therein. This last fact giving to the reader who can read between the lines a new light upon the process of evolution, and a new key to the secret door of the leaps of life between kingdom and kingdom. The great kingdoms of elementals are fully recognized by all occultists, and the esoteric writings are full of mention of them. The readers of Bulwer's Sanoni and similar tales will recognize the entities inhabiting these planes of life. Passing on from the great mental plane to the great spiritual plane, what shall we say, and how can we explain these higher states of being, life, and mind, to minds as yet unable to grasp and understand the higher subdivisions of the plane of human mind? The task is impossible. We can only speak in the most general terms. How may light be described to a man born blind? How sugar to a man who has never tasted anything sweet? How harmony to one born deaf? All we can say is that the seven minor planes of the great spiritual plane, each minor plane having its seven subdivisions, comprise beings possessing life, mind, and form, as far above that of man as today as the latter is above the earthworm, mineral, or even certain forms of energy or matter. The life of these beings so far transcends ours that we cannot even think of the details of the same. Their minds so far transcend ours that to them we scarcely seem to think, and our mental processes must seem akin to material processes. The matter of which their forms are composed is of the highest planes of matter. Nay, some are even said to be clothed in pure energy. What may be said of such beings? On the seven minor planes of the great spiritual plane exist beings of whom we may speak as angels, archangels, demigods. On the lower minor planes dwell those great souls whom we call masters and adepts. Above them come the great hierarchies of the angelic host, unthinkable to man, and above those come those who may without irreverence be called the gods. So high in the scale of being are they, their being, intelligence, and power being akin to those attributed by the races of men to their conceptions of deity. These beings are beyond even the highest flights of the human imagination, the word divine being the only one applicable to them. Many of these beings, as well as the angelic host, take the greatest interest in the affairs of the universe and play an important part in its affairs. The unseen divinities and angelic helpers extend their influence freely and powerfully in the process of evolution and cosmic progress. Their occasional intervention and assistance in human affairs have led to many legends, beliefs, religions, and traditions of the race, past and present. They have superimposed their knowledge and power upon the world again and again, all under the law of the all, of course. But yet, even the highest of these advanced beings exist merely as creations of and in the mind of the all, and are subject to the cosmic processes and universal laws. They are still mortal. We may call them gods if we like, but they are all but the elder brethren of the race. The advanced souls who have outstripped their brethren, and who have foregone the ecstasy of absorption by the all, in order to help the race in its upward journey along. along the path. But they belong to the universe and are subject to its conditions. They are mortal, and their plane is below that of absolute spirit. Only the most advanced Hermetists are able to grasp the inner teachings regarding the state of existence and the powers manifested on the spiritual planes. The phenomena is so much higher than that of the mental planes that a confusion of ideas would surely result from an attempt to describe the same. Only those whose minds have been carefully trained along the lines of Hermetic philosophy for years, yes, those who have brought with them from other incarnations the knowledge acquired previously, can comprehend what is meant by the teaching regarding these spiritual planes. And much of these inner teachings is held by the Hermetists as being too sacred, important, and even dangerous for general public dissemination. The intelligent student may recognize what we mean by this when we state that the meaning of spirit, as used by the Hermetists, is akin to living power, animated force, inner essence, essence of life, etc. Winning meaning must not be confounded with that usually and commonly employed in connection with the term, i.e., religious, ecclesiastical, spiritual, ethereal, holy, etc., etc. To occultists, the word spirit is used in the sense of the animating principle, carrying with it the idea of power, living energy, mystic force, etc. And occultists know that that which is known to them as spiritual power may be employed for evil as well as good ends, in accordance with the principle of polarity. In fact, it has been recognized by the majority of religions in their conceptions of Satan, Beelzebub, the devil, Lucifer, fallen angels, etc. And so the knowledge regarding these planes has been kept in the Holy of Holies, in all esoteric fraternities and occult orders, in the secret chamber of the temple. But this may be said here, that those who have attained high spiritual power and have misused them have a terrible fate in store for them. And the swing of the pendulum of rhythm will inevitably swing them back to the furthest extreme of material existence, from which point they must retrace their steps spiritward along the weary rounds of the path, but always with the added torture of having always with them a lingering memory of the heights from which they fell, owing to their evil actions. The legends of the fallen angels have a basis in actual fact, as all advanced occultists know. The striving for selfish power on the spiritual planes inevitably results in the selfish soul losing its spiritual balance and falling back as far as it had previously risen. But even to such a soul, the opportunity of a return is given, and such souls make the return journey, paying the terrible penalty according to the invariable law. In conclusion, we would again remind you that according to the pure principle of correspondence, which embodies the truth as above so below, as below so above, all of the 7 Hermetic principles are in full operation on all of the many planes, physical, mental, and spiritual. The principle of mental substance, of course, applies to all the planes, for all are held in the mind of the all. The principle of correspondence manifests in all, for there is a correspondence, harmony, and agreement between the several planes. The principle of vibration manifests on all planes. In fact, the very difference that go to make the planes arise from vibration, as we have explained. The principle of polarity manifests on each plane, the extremes of the poles being apparently opposite and contradictory. The principle of rhythm manifests on each plane, the movement of the phenomena having its ebb and flow, rise and flow, incoming and outgoing. The principle of cause and effect manifests on each plane, every effect having its cause and every cause having its effect. The principle of gender manifests on each plane, the creative energy being always manifest, and operating along the lines of its masculine and feminine aspects. As above, so below. As below, so above. This centuries-old Hermetic axiom embodies one of the great principles of universal phenomena. As we proceed with our consideration of the remaining principles, we will see even more clearly the truth of the universal nature of this great principle of correspondence. And so, we are done with 8, and Man, there's a lot in this one too. Okay, they're close. They've been close the whole time, but not quite. The number is not 7. The number is 8. 8 generally does include the next beginning of the harmonic. So it is the repeat of the first at a different level, right? Like an E chord on a guitar. There's an E string at the top, there's an E string at the bottom. They're both E's, they have a different vibratory rate. There are 7 steps between the 8, but there are 8. Here are the 8. You have the atomic level, which is level 1. That is the first plane of existence. It is merely existing. You have 0 determinant for yourself. You can think of it as an atom, right? A piece of elemental things. The second one, the second plane, is when those start coming together and they create the inanimate things, rocks. Biggest one, right? Rocks. But it is also space. It is, I think, that is the second level of existence. It is the cohesion together. It creates the flat plane of 2D existence, right? Like a sheet of paper. The flatness is the 2D. You have dimensions now. The next one is inanimate life, right? And that's a little bit contradictory to say, but this is like plant life. You grow. You have the third dimension. You go length, width, and height. You can grow and become more, but you can't really move anywheres. The fourth dimension, you get movement. Movement is length, width, height, and now you have depth. You can go from this point to this point, right? Beyond the bounds of your roots. All of these are from an incorporation, right? So the two cohesion comes together and it creates the second. And the second gets consumed by the third and becomes part of the third. And the third gets consumed by the fourth, and the fourth becomes part of the fourth. And then we are in the fifth. The fifth dimension, not the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension. We have length, width, height. We have depth, and we can think. We can plan. We have the idea of time. We don't have control of it. We don't have mastery of it, but we know about it. These dogs don't. They have a generalized conception that they go to sleep at a time, kind of, sort of, maybe like, but for the most part, they don't understand I've got to be somewhere at 6 o'clock. Humans have that. That is the fifth dimension, the ability to concept the future and the past. The sixth plane of existence will be the use of that, the ability to mutate between those. You have, to some degree, access to that, right? That is planning for the future and remembering the past, but you can't transfer yourself physically in that manner. That is the next plane of existence. If you complete the mastery on the fifth plane, then you get access to the sixth plane. They're telling you that in here. They're a little bit off on the details. That is the level of the angelics. That is the level of the messengers. Then you have the seventh plane, right? The seventh plane has complete mastery of all time at all time. So they're not transferring between, they are. That is the level of the divinity. That is the 7 planes of existence. That is the 7 steps in the evolutionary process. And the 8th one, after the completion of reaching the 7th and reuniting with the all, is the next step in the evolutionary process. The beginning of the 8th is the repeat of the beginning. That is the 8 steps of the harmonics. I have a whole video on the harmonics of life. Like, there is an 8-step revelatory process that happens in every single part of our life, from the way the earth is constructed, to the way the atmosphere is constructed, to the way that space is constructed, to the way that you are constructed. You have 8 individual chakras that you have access to and can use. 7 of them are internal. The 8th one is external. It is access to the divine. You have access to it. All of these things are the completion of what are being tried to told to you here. I understand that sounds a little bit hyperbolic maybe, or maybe a little bit conceited or whatever, but it is, right? It is that it works, not that it is conceited, but this is this has been revealed to me before I ever read this, right? These are minor confirmations of things that I already believe. The differences between these planes, as they explain it, are really the subdivisions within the one greater harmonic. And so we're not going to dive deep into that. We're already running really long. But the as above, so below, we've already hit on that. That is part of the way that you hold your energy in check, the way that you align yourself. It is taking control of the next step in your progression. You have access to the time. I do not recommend playing with that, right? There are things that can happen, and I'm not even gonna, because it tells you in here, just as well as I have told you before, these things can be used for wrong, both intentionally and unintentionally. So if you are not in accordance with the 8 laws of creation, you will almost certainly pull in the wrong energy. It's not me. I'm not doing that. I don't gain no benefit from you doing it. You gain benefit from following the laws. You gain benefit from doing the things you were asked to do, listening to the voice inside your head. These are the things, not the dirty ones, not the bad ones, but the ones that are drawing you upwards, right? There are different voices for different people. Not psychotic voices, not medicate these voices. The inner workings of God in your soul. Make sure that you understand the laws. Make sure that you are in correspondence with the laws, and sort of that your vibration, which you have access to changing, right? The concept that they have of vibration here is really the concept of time. Bear with me. Nothing can vibrate unless it is moving, and there is no movement without time. But you have access to the conscious movement of time. And so you can cause vibration, right? That is your vibration through meditation and prayer and fasting to raise each of your corresponding chakras to the correct vibration so that your entire stack is vibrating correctly, so that you have access correctly to the divine and the manifestation that allows through the access of time. Not really vibration. Vibration is the tool, time is the key. That's a little bit hard to conceive, but if you can get that, that is the key. As far as they're going through the principles, like I've said before, they correspond better with the laws. The principles are good starting points, but they don't quite explain it in a way that's going to be effective. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult set of topics. I understand that I have some different views than other people, and I understand that I tend to step on toes when I speak on those views. It is not intentional, but I do not apologize for it. I am here for your betterment as much as my own. I can only promise you that, but it is true. I want you to succeed every bit as much as me, as long as you are not aligned with my detriment or with the detriment of humanity and creation in general. If you are aligned with creation, I want you to succeed, period. I don't care who you are, I don't care where you are, I don't care who you call God. If you are living earnestly in accordance with the principles of creation, life, love, and truth, I am with you 100%. I want you to succeed. I want to give you the tools that actually work. We have had control systems in place for a very long time to keep you from having access to the things that are yours by birthright. All these things that I can do, you can do too, and more. To the crew. Well, hold on. If you like what I'm doing here, let me know down below. If you would like sharing this up, throw me a comment. Let me know you appreciate it. If you really like it, give me a super thanks. I will truly and greatly appreciate that. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete, just the way that you are. This has been Pitt State. Peace.